Hi, I'm Elena Rodriguez. 6 months ago, my mother-in-law walked into what she thought was her son's house and told me to pack my belongings because I had no right to live there. She had convinced my husband that his wife was nothing more than a temporary guest in his family's legacy home. What she didn't know was that I had spent 3 years secretly building a financial empire while she dismissed me as worthless, and the mortgage documents sitting in my safe bore only my name. The woman who called me a gold digger was about to discover that I owned the roof over her head. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. The story I'm about to share is not merely about property ownership or family conflict. It represents the fundamental power of financial independence to transform relationships, command respect, and redefine family dynamics on your own terms. Before we journey through this transformation together, let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and if this resonates with your own experiences of being underestimated, make sure you subscribe, because tomorrow I have something special planned that will show you exactly how financial empowerment can change everything. The autumn of 2021 in Portland, Oregon, marked the beginning of what would become the most challenging and ultimately transformative period of my life. At 28 years old, I had been married to David Martinez for 3 years, but I had never felt secure in what was supposed to be our shared home. The Victorian house on Laurelhurst Avenue was beautiful, with its restored hardwood floors, period fixtures, and carefully maintained garden, but it carried the weight of family history that made me feel like an intruder rather than a rightful resident. The house had belonged to David's grandmother, Maria Elena Martinez, who had purchased it in 1962 with her husband's military pension after he returned from service in Korea. Maria Elena had raised 5 children in that house, including David's father Roberto, who had inherited the property when she passed away in 2015. Roberto and his wife Carmen, David's mother, had intended to sell the house and use the proceeds for their retirement plans, but David had convinced them to let him assume the mortgage payments instead. The arrangement was informal, based on family trust rather than legal documentation. David made monthly payments to his parents, who continued to hold the deed while he lived in the house with the understanding that ownership would eventually transfer to him. This arrangement satisfied everyone except me, because it meant that I lived in a house where I had no legal rights, no equity stake, and no security beyond my husband's continued affection and his family's ongoing approval. Carmen Martinez had made her position clear from the moment David announced our engagement. I was not the daughter-in-law she had envisioned for her eldest son. My background was wrong, my career aspirations were inappropriate, and my independence was threatening to the traditional family structure she expected to maintain. Carmen had grown up in a generation where wives deferred to husbands, where family hierarchy was respected without question, and where young women earned their place through submission rather than achievement. My background was indeed different from what the Martinez family expected. I had grown up in a working-class neighborhood in East Portland, the daughter of immigrants who had built a small construction business through decades of 16-hour workdays and careful financial management. My parents, Miguel and Rosa Rodriguez, had instilled in me the importance of education, financial independence, and never depending entirely on others for security. They had sacrificed enormous amounts to ensure that I could attend Portland State University, where I earned a degree in business administration while working part-time in their construction office. After graduation, I had taken a position with a mid-sized accounting firm, specializing in small business financial management and tax preparation. The work was demanding but intellectually satisfying, and it provided me with comprehensive understanding of business finance, investment strategies, and wealth-building techniques that most people my age never had the opportunity to learn. My salary was modest, but sufficient for independence, and I had been building savings and investment accounts since my first paycheck. David and I had met through mutual friends at a community festival in 2018. He was charming, educated, and came from a family with established roots in Portland's Latino community. His father was a respected high school principal, his mother was active in community organizations, and the family enjoyed social standing that my immigrant parents had never achieved despite their business success. David worked as a software developer for a local technology company, earning a comfortable salary that supported his lifestyle in the family house. Our courtship was romantic and seemed promising, but I began to notice concerning patterns in how David's family treated me during our engagement period. Carmen consistently referred to me by my first name rather than acknowledging my role as David's fiancé, made subtle comments about my career ambitions that suggested disapproval, and frequently mentioned other young women from their social circle who she thought would have been more suitable matches for her son. The wedding itself became a source of ongoing tension. Carmen wanted a traditional ceremony that reflected the family's Catholic heritage and social expectations, while I preferred a smaller celebration that honored both of our cultural backgrounds without excessive expense or formality. Every decision became a negotiation, where Carmen's preferences carried more weight than mine, ostensibly because the Martinez family was paying for the majority of the wedding expenses. I should have recognized these early warning signs as indicators of how marriage would reshape family dynamics, but I was optimistic that establishing our own household would create appropriate boundaries between generations. I believed that living as husband and wife would naturally establish my position as David's primary family relationship, reducing his mother's influence over our daily decisions and future plans. Moving into the Laurelhurst house after our honeymoon quickly dispelled these optimistic assumptions. Carmen retained a key to the house and used it freely, arriving unannounced to drop off food, check on household maintenance, or simply visit with David during hours when I was at work. She rearranged furniture to match her preferences, criticized my cooking and housekeeping standards, and frequently made suggestions about how I should modify my career to better support David's professional advancement. David's response to his mother's behavior was consistently supportive of maintaining family harmony, rather than establishing boundaries that protected our marriage. When I expressed discomfort with Carmen's unannounced visits, David explained that she was simply trying to be helpful and that I should appreciate her involvement rather than viewing it as intrusion. When I objected to her rearranging our furniture, David suggested that she had better taste than either of us and that her changes improved the house's appearance. The most frustrating aspect of these conflicts was David's inability to understand why I felt unwelcome in what was supposed to be our shared home. He had grown up in a family where his mother's authority was unquestioned, where her preferences were accommodated without discussion, and where challenging her decisions was viewed as disrespectful behavior that undermined family unity. He genuinely could not comprehend why I found her constant presence and criticism problematic rather than helpful. 6 months into our marriage, Carmen made a comment that crystallized my growing understanding of how the family viewed my position in their hierarchy. David had mentioned during Sunday dinner that we were considering renovating the kitchen to better accommodate my cooking preferences and work schedule. Carmen's response was immediate and definitive. "David, you should discuss major house decisions with your father and me before making commitments," she said, her tone carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed. "This house represents 3 generations of family investment, and changes should reflect family consensus rather than individual preferences." The statement was delivered as though I was not present at the table, despite sitting directly across from her. More significantly, it established that Carmen viewed the house as family property, where my preferences were irrelevant to decision-making processes. I was not a homeowner with rights to modify my living environment, but a temporary resident whose comfort was secondary to family traditions and expectations. David's response was even more revealing than his mother's original comment. Instead of defending my right to participate in decisions about our shared living space, he apologized for not consulting his parents before discussing renovation plans and assured his mother that any future changes would be approved by the family before implementation. Sitting at that dinner table, listening to my husband defer to his mother about decisions concerning what I thought was our home, I experienced a moment of clarity that would reshape everything about how I approached our marriage and my own financial security. I realized that I was not living in our house, but in their house, where I was tolerated rather than welcomed, and where my legal standing was non-existent despite being married to the presumptive heir. The conversation continued around me as though I had become invisible, with Carmen and David discussing renovation priorities, budget considerations, and family consultation processes that would govern future household decisions. Roberto, David's father, participated in the discussion with the practical focus of someone evaluating property improvement investments, occasionally asking technical questions about materials and contractors that demonstrated his continued ownership perspective. That evening, after we returned home from dinner, I attempted to discuss my concerns with David about how the family's approach to house decisions made me feel excluded and disrespected. His response revealed the depth of the problem I was facing and the fundamental disconnect between his understanding of marriage and mine. "Elena, you are taking this too personally," David said, his tone suggesting that my concerns were emotional overreactions rather than legitimate grievances. "My parents have 40 years of experience maintaining this house, and they have invested significant money in preserving its value. Of course, they want to be consulted about major changes. That does not mean they do not respect you or value your opinions." I tried to explain that the issue was not about their experience or investment, but about establishing appropriate boundaries that recognized our marriage as the primary relationship determining household decisions. David's response made clear that he viewed marriage as expanding family consultation networks rather than creating independent household authority. "Elena, family input makes us stronger, not weaker," he continued. "My parents are not trying to control us. They are trying to help us make good decisions about property that represents significant family wealth. You should appreciate their involvement rather than resenting it." The conversation ended without resolution, but it clarified for me that David would never voluntarily establish the boundaries I needed to feel secure in our living situation. His loyalty to family harmony would consistently override his commitment to protecting our marriage from outside interference. More importantly, I understood that my security in our home was entirely dependent on maintaining David's affection and his family's approval, both of which could be withdrawn at any time for reasons beyond my control. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. That night, lying in bed in a house where I had no legal rights and apparently no voice in major decisions, I made a resolution that would change everything about my approach to financial security and family relationships. I decided that I would never again be in a position where my housing, my security, or my dignity depended entirely on other people's continued goodwill. The next morning, I began researching real estate prices in Portland neighborhoods, mortgage qualification requirements, and investment strategies that could build wealth quickly enough to provide genuine alternatives to my current situation. I was not planning to leave David, but I was determined to create financial independence that would give me options and leverage in family dynamics that currently rendered me powerless. Over the following weeks, I quietly began implementing a comprehensive financial strategy that would eventually transform not only my personal security, but also the entire balance of power within the Martinez family. I increased my retirement contributions to the maximum allowed by law, opened additional investment accounts that would build equity outside of joint marital assets, and began taking on freelance accounting work that would supplement my salary without requiring David's knowledge or approval. The freelance work was particularly strategic because it utilized skills I had developed through my regular employment while creating income streams that were entirely under my control. I worked with small business owners who needed help with bookkeeping, tax preparation, and financial planning, services that were in high demand and commanded premium rates. The additional income was modest initially, but it grew steadily as I built a reputation for reliable, high-quality work. Carmen's behavior during this period became increasingly presumptuous and controlling, apparently emboldened by David's consistent support for family involvement in our household decisions. She began making unilateral changes to our living arrangements, replacing curtains and decorative items with alternatives that matched her preferences, rearranging kitchen cabinets to improve efficiency according to her standards, and establishing regular visiting schedules that treated our home as an extension of her own domain. The most egregious incident occurred 3 months after the dinner table conversation about renovation decisions. I returned home from work one afternoon to discover that Carmen had supervised the installation of new living room furniture that replaced pieces David and I had selected together during our first year of marriage. The furniture was expensive and tasteful, but it had been chosen and purchased without any consultation with me, despite the fact that I would be living with these items daily. When I asked David about the furniture replacement, his explanation revealed how completely he had internalized his mother's authority over household decisions. Mom found a great deal on a complete living room set that matches the house's architectural style much better than what we had before, he said, apparently expecting me to be pleased with the improvement. She used her decorator discount to save us almost 30% off retail price. I thought you would appreciate her effort to improve our home while saving us money. The explanation demonstrated David's complete inability to understand why I might object to having our jointly selected furniture replaced without consultation, regardless of the financial savings or aesthetic improvements involved. In his mind, his mother's superior taste and purchasing power justified unilateral decision-making that completely bypassed my preferences and participation. My response was more direct than any previous objection I had made to Carmen's behavior. David, I do not care how much money she saved or how much better the new furniture looks. This is supposed to be our home, and major purchases should be decisions we make together. Your mother does not live here, and she should not be making unilateral changes to our living environment. David's reaction was immediate and defensive. Elena, you are being unreasonable and ungrateful. Mom spent her entire Saturday helping us improve our home, and instead of thanking her, you are complaining about not being consulted. She has much better taste than either of us, and she got us furniture that we could never have afforded at full price. The argument escalated as I tried to explain that the issue was not about taste or money, but about respect and boundaries, while David continued to frame my objections as ingratitude for his mother's generous assistance. The conversation ended with David storming out of the house to call his mother and apologize for my unreasonable reaction to her helpful improvements. That evening, alone in a living room furnished according to someone else's preferences, I realized that my situation was not going to improve through discussion, compromise, or appeals to David's sense of fairness. The family dynamics were too entrenched, David's loyalty to his mother was too strong, and my legal position was too weak to create meaningful change through conventional approaches. However, my financial situation was improving steadily through consistent saving, strategic investing, and growing freelance income that now supplemented my salary by approximately 30%. I had been building wealth quietly and systematically, creating financial capabilities that no one in David's family suspected or understood. More importantly, I had been researching real estate opportunities and mortgage qualification processes that could potentially provide alternatives to my current housing insecurity. The seed of a plan was beginning to form, one that would address my security concerns through financial empowerment rather than family negotiation. I was not yet ready to implement dramatic changes, but I was building the foundation for transformation that would eventually shift the entire balance of power in relationships that currently left me vulnerable and voiceless. The journey from financial dependency to empowerment was just beginning, but I was already discovering that systematic wealth building created options and confidence that transformed how I understood my own capabilities and future possibilities. Carmen Martinez was about to learn that the daughter-in-law she had dismissed as powerless was developing resources that would challenge every assumption about family hierarchy and control. The transformation was subtle but accelerating, and it would soon create circumstances that no one in the Martinez family could have anticipated or prepared for. The woman they viewed as a temporary inconvenience was building the foundation for permanent change that would redefine their family dynamics forever. The weeks following the furniture incident marked a fundamental shift in my approach to the challenges I faced within the Martinez family dynamic. Rather than continuing to seek resolution through communication and compromise, I began implementing a comprehensive financial strategy designed to create genuine independence and security that could not be undermined by family politics or relationship changes. My research into real estate markets and mortgage qualification requirements revealed opportunities that aligned perfectly with my growing income and improving financial position. Portland's housing market in 2021 was competitive, but not impossible for qualified buyers with solid credit histories and sufficient down payment resources. More importantly, I discovered that my combined salary from the accounting firm and growing freelance income would qualify me for mortgage amounts that could purchase property comparable to or superior to the Martinez family home. The realization that I could potentially afford to purchase my own property was both exhilarating and intimidating. Homeownership had always seemed like a distant goal that would require years of additional savings and possibly joint financing with David. Discovering that I was already approaching qualification thresholds through my individual financial efforts created possibilities I had not previously considered. However, purchasing property would require substantial down payment resources that I had not yet accumulated. My current savings and investment accounts totaled approximately $48,000, which was significant but insufficient for the 20% down payment that would provide optimal mortgage terms on properties in desirable Portland neighborhoods. I needed to accelerate my wealth-building efforts while maintaining the discretion necessary to avoid premature disclosure of my plans. The freelance accounting work became my primary vehicle for rapid wealth accumulation. I systematically expanded my client base by networking through professional associations, requesting referrals from satisfied customers, and developing specialized expertise in areas where demand exceeded supply. Small business tax preparation, QuickBooks setup and training, and financial consulting for startup companies commanded premium rates and provided steady income streams that supplemented my salary substantially. Within 3 months of intensifying my freelance efforts, I was earning an additional $1,500 per month beyond my regular salary. This additional income was deposited directly into investment accounts that David had no knowledge of and no legal access to. I structured these accounts to maximize growth potential while maintaining sufficient liquidity to support major financial decisions when opportunities arose. The investment strategy I developed balanced aggressive growth potential with prudent risk management. I allocated 60% of my additional income to diversified index funds that provided broad market exposure, 30% to individual stocks and companies whose financial statements I analyzed thoroughly, and 10% to high-yield savings accounts that would provide immediate liquidity for real estate down payments or other major purchases. My professional background in accounting and financial analysis provided significant advantages in evaluating investment opportunities and understanding market trends that affected wealth-building strategies. I spent evenings and weekends researching companies, analyzing financial reports, and tracking economic indicators that influenced investment performance. This systematic approach to wealth building created steady returns that exceeded what most people achieved through conventional savings and retirement planning. The emotional satisfaction of watching my net worth grow through systematic effort and strategic decision-making was profound and transformative. For the first time since marrying into the Martinez family, I felt genuine power and security that derived from my own capabilities rather than depending on other people's approval or goodwill. Each month's investment statements provided concrete evidence that I was building resources that could support independent decisions about my future. Carmen's behavior during this period became increasingly presumptuous and controlling, apparently interpreting David's consistent support as license to expand her involvement in our household management. She began making unannounced visits more frequently, often arriving with specific agendas for improvements or changes she wanted to implement. Her suggestions were rarely presented as requests for consideration, but as plans that she expected to be accepted and implemented. The kitchen renovation discussion resurfaced repeatedly during family gatherings, with Carmen presenting increasingly detailed proposals for modifications that reflected her cooking preferences and aesthetic vision. She had obtained quotes from contractors, researched appliance options, and developed comprehensive plans that would transform the kitchen according to her specifications. The fact that I would be using this kitchen daily and had different preferences seemed irrelevant to her planning process. David's response to his mother's renovation enthusiasm was consistently supportive and encouraging. He praised her research efforts, agreed with her aesthetic choices, and assured her that we would implement her recommendations when our financial situation allowed for major home improvements. These conversations occurred as though I was not present, or as though my preferences were automatically aligned with Carmen's vision. My growing financial confidence began to influence how I responded to these family dynamics. Instead of arguing about consultation processes or expressing frustration with being excluded from decisions, I began asking detailed questions about costs, timelines, and financing arrangements that revealed my increasing sophistication about property improvement investments. During one particularly detailed kitchen renovation discussion, I asked Carmen whether she had considered the return on investment potential of different upgrade options and how various improvements might affect property values in our neighborhood. My questions demonstrated knowledge of real estate markets and investment analysis that surprised both Carmen and David, who had never heard me discuss property values or renovation economics with such expertise. Carmen's response revealed her assumption that I lacked the financial sophistication to understand major household investment decisions. Elena, these are complex considerations that require experience with property management and market analysis, she said, her tone suggesting that such topics were beyond my comprehension. David and I have been discussing these issues with Roberto, and we will determine the most appropriate approach for improvements that benefit the family long term. Her dismissive response provided perfect motivation for demonstrating capabilities she had never suspected I possessed. I spent the following week researching comparable property sales in our neighborhood, analyzing renovation costs versus property value improvements, and developing comprehensive financial analysis of different upgrade scenarios. My research revealed that Carmen's proposed renovations would cost approximately $35,000, but would likely increase property values by only $22,000, representing poor return on investment compared to alternative improvement strategies. Armed with detailed financial analysis and market research, I presented my findings during the next family dinner discussion about renovation plans. The presentation was professional, comprehensive, and demonstrated expertise that neither Carmen nor David had anticipated from someone they viewed as financially naive and inexperienced. Based on comparable sales analysis and consultation with 3 real estate professionals, the kitchen renovation as currently proposed would represent negative return on investment, I explained, distributing printed summaries of my research. Alternative approaches focusing on high-impact, low-cost improvements could achieve similar aesthetic goals while preserving capital for investments that provide better long-term value. The reaction around the dinner table was immediate and revealing. Roberto examined my analysis with the serious attention of someone experienced in evaluating financial proposals, asking technical questions about methodology and data sources that demonstrated respect for my research approach. David appeared surprised and somewhat confused by my sudden expertise in areas he had never heard me discuss previously. Carmen's response was defensive and dismissive, apparently threatened by having her renovation authority challenged through superior research and analysis. Elena, I appreciate your effort to contribute to family discussions, but major household decisions require experience and judgment that cannot be replaced by internet research and theoretical analysis, she said, her tone suggesting that my research was amateur interference with serious family planning. Her dismissive response provided the perfect opportunity to reveal additional dimensions of my financial expertise that the family had never suspected. I mentioned my professional background in business financial analysis, my experience evaluating investment opportunities for accounting clients, and my ongoing research into real estate markets for personal investment purposes. Carmen, my professional work involves analyzing exactly these types of investment decisions for business clients who depend on accurate financial analysis for major capital expenditures. I replied, maintaining the respectful tone appropriate for family discussions, while establishing my credibility in areas where she had assumed superiority. The methodology I used for this renovation analysis is identical to approaches I use professionally for clients making similar investment decisions. The revelation that I possessed professional expertise in financial analysis and investment evaluation created a subtle but significant shift in family dynamics during that dinner conversation. Roberto began directing questions about property investment and market trends directly to me, rather than discussing these topics exclusively with Carmen and David. He showed genuine interest in my professional perspective and asked for my opinions about neighborhood development trends and long-term property value projections. David's reaction was more complex and somewhat troubling. Instead of expressing pride in my expertise or satisfaction that his wife could contribute meaningfully to family financial discussions, he seemed uncomfortable with the attention my analysis had attracted and the respect Roberto was showing for my professional capabilities. His discomfort suggested that he preferred family dynamics where his mother retained financial authority and where my contributions remained limited to supportive rather than leadership roles. The dinner conversation concluded with Roberto suggesting that we delay major renovation decisions until we could conduct additional research and consider alternative approaches that might provide better investment returns. This outcome represented a significant victory for my analysis and a subtle challenge to Carmen's assumption that she would control major household improvement decisions. However, the victory also revealed the potential consequences of demonstrating capabilities that challenged established family hierarchies. Carmen's expression during the remainder of the evening suggested resentment rather than appreciation for my contribution to family financial planning. David's discomfort indicated that he found my professional expertise threatening rather than supportive of our shared household management. Walking home from dinner that evening, David expressed concerns about my presentation that revealed his loyalty conflicts between supporting his wife's capabilities and maintaining his mother's authority within family decision-making processes. Elena, I appreciate that you want to contribute to family discussions, but the way you presented your analysis made it seem like you were trying to prove that Mom's research was inadequate, he said, framing my professional analysis as personal criticism rather than objective financial evaluation. His response demonstrated that he viewed family harmony as more important than accurate financial analysis or optimal investment decisions. In his mind, challenging his mother's recommendations, even through superior research and professional expertise, represented disloyalty to family unity rather than valuable contribution to household planning. David, I presented objective financial analysis that could save us thousands of dollars and improve our long-term investment returns, I replied, trying to help him understand that professional expertise should be welcomed rather than viewed as threatening to family relationships. My goal was to contribute valuable information to decisions that will affect our financial future, not to criticize your mother's efforts. The conversation revealed fundamental differences in how we understood family loyalty, professional expertise, and decision-making authority within marriage relationships. David prioritized maintaining his mother's feelings and preserving family harmony over optimizing financial outcomes or respecting professional capabilities that could benefit household planning. His approach suggested that I should minimize my expertise to avoid creating discomfort for family members who preferred to maintain traditional authority structures. This dynamic created a strategic challenge for my wealth-building efforts and long-term security planning. Demonstrating financial sophistication that could protect our household from poor investment decisions also revealed capabilities that threatened established family hierarchies and created conflict within my marriage. I needed to continue building financial independence while managing family relationships that became more complicated as my expertise became apparent. The solution I developed involved compartmentalizing my financial activities to minimize family awareness while accelerating wealth accumulation through strategies that did not require disclosure or consultation. I expanded my freelance accounting practice to include higher-value clients who required comprehensive financial consulting rather than basic bookkeeping services. These relationships provided substantially higher income while developing expertise in areas that would support my personal investment planning. I also began researching real estate investment opportunities more systematically, focusing on properties that could provide both personal residence and investment income potential. Duplex and triplex properties in developing Portland neighborhoods offered possibilities for owner-occupied financing that would minimize down payment requirements while creating rental income streams to support mortgage payments and property maintenance costs. The research revealed that I was approaching qualification thresholds for investment property purchases that could provide both housing security and wealth-building opportunities. My improving credit score, growing income documentation, and accumulating down payment resources would soon support mortgage applications for properties that could transform my financial position dramatically. More importantly, property ownership would provide legal security and decision-making authority that could not be undermined by family politics or relationship changes. As a property owner, I would have legal rights that protected my housing security and gave me complete authority over household management decisions. The psychological and practical benefits of property ownership represented the ultimate solution to the vulnerability I experienced within the Martinez family dynamic. 6 months after implementing my accelerated wealth-building strategy, my investment accounts had grown to $73,000. Representing sufficient resources for down payments on properties valued up to $360,000. Portland real estate listings included numerous options within this price range that would provide comparable or superior living accommodations to the Martinez family home, along with legal ownership that would eliminate my current housing insecurity. The realization that I was approaching financial capability for independent property ownership created profound shifts in how I understood my options and my power within current family relationships. I was no longer trapped by circumstances beyond my control but was actively building resources that would provide genuine alternatives to accepting disrespectful treatment or compromising my values to maintain housing stability. Carmen's continued presumptuous behavior and David's persistent inability to establish appropriate boundaries had become irrelevant to my long-term security, because I was developing capabilities that would make their approval unnecessary for my housing and financial well-being. The transformation from vulnerability to empowerment was accelerating. and I was approaching decision points that would allow me to act from strength rather than weakness in determining my future circumstances. The foundation for dramatic change had been established through systematic effort, strategic planning, and disciplined execution of wealth-building strategies that no one in the Martinez family had suspected or understood. The woman they continued to dismiss as financially dependent was building resources that would soon provide options they could never have imagined possible. The revelation of my financial expertise during the kitchen renovation discussion created ripple effects throughout the Martinez family dynamic that extended far beyond the immediate conversation about home improvements. Roberto's newfound respect for my professional capabilities opened doors to discussions about family financial planning that had previously been conducted without my knowledge or input. More significantly, it provided opportunities to demonstrate strategic thinking that would prove essential to my long-term empowerment goals. 3 weeks after the dinner table presentation of my renovation analysis, Roberto approached me privately with a request that would dramatically expand my influence within family financial decisions. He explained that the Martinez family had accumulated substantial savings over decades of careful financial management, but their investment strategy had remained conservative and potentially suboptimal given changing market conditions and their approaching retirement timeline. Elena, your analysis of the renovation costs showed sophisticated understanding of investment principles that Carmen and I never learned formally, Roberto said during a conversation in his home office, surrounded by filing cabinets filled with decades of meticulous financial records. We have been managing our retirement funds and property investments using strategies that worked well in previous decades, but we are not certain whether our current approach remains optimal given economic changes and new investment opportunities. The conversation revealed that the Martinez family controlled significantly more wealth than I had realized. Roberto and Carmen had accumulated retirement savings exceeding $400,000, owned their primary residence outright, held the mortgage on David's house as a family asset, and possessed additional investment properties that generated rental income. Their total net worth approached $800,000, representing substantial financial resources that had been managed conservatively through traditional savings accounts and basic mutual fund investments. Roberto's request for professional consultation about optimizing their investment strategy presented extraordinary opportunities to demonstrate value while building relationships that could support my own financial objectives. More importantly, it provided insights into family financial resources and decision-making processes that could inform my strategic planning in ways I had never anticipated. I spent the following week conducting comprehensive analysis of the Martinez family financial portfolio, examining their current asset allocation, evaluating performance against market benchmarks, and identifying opportunities for optimization that could significantly improve their retirement security and income generation potential. The analysis required sophisticated financial modeling and market research that drew upon all of my professional expertise and demonstrated capabilities that exceeded what most family members typically provided. My findings revealed substantial opportunities for improvement through strategic reallocation of assets, implementation of tax-advantaged investment vehicles, and adoption of more aggressive growth strategies appropriate for their timeline and risk tolerance. The conservative approach they had maintained was costing them approximately $37,000 annually in potential returns compared to optimized strategies that maintained similar risk profiles while providing superior performance potential. The comprehensive financial analysis I prepared for Roberto and Carmen was professional-grade consultation that would have commanded thousands of dollars in fees from external financial advisors. I presented the analysis during a private meeting at their home, using detailed charts and projections to illustrate current performance shortfalls and improvement opportunities that could substantially enhance their retirement security. Based on comprehensive analysis of your current portfolio and market conditions, strategic reallocation of assets could increase your annual returns by approximately 12%, while maintaining risk levels consistent with your conservative investment philosophy, I explained, presenting documentation that supported every recommendation with detailed financial modeling and historical performance data. Roberto and Carmen listened to my presentation with intense attention, asking technical questions that demonstrated genuine engagement with the analysis and respect for the expertise I was providing. Carmen's attitude toward my capabilities had shifted noticeably since the renovation discussion, apparently recognizing that my professional knowledge represented valuable resources rather than threatening interference with family authority. The presentation concluded with Roberto asking me to implement the recommended changes as their family financial advisor, a role that would provide ongoing involvement in investment decisions and regular consultation about optimization strategies. The position would be compensated at professional rates and would establish formal recognition of my expertise within family financial planning processes. Accepting the role as Martinez's family financial advisor represented a strategic victory that provided multiple benefits for my empowerment objectives. The compensation would accelerate my wealth accumulation efforts substantially. The access to family financial information would inform my personal strategic planning, and the formal recognition of my expertise would establish authority that could influence future family decisions affecting my security and independence. However, the most significant benefit was psychological and relational. For the first time since joining the Martinez family, I was being valued for capabilities I possessed rather than merely tolerated as David's wife. My expertise was generating respect and authority that derived from professional competence rather than family relationships, creating power dynamics that could not be undermined through emotional manipulation or traditional hierarchical assumptions. The success of my financial consultation work with Roberto and Carmen created natural opportunities to expand my professional practice beyond family relationships. Word of my expertise spread through their social network, generating referrals from other families who needed comprehensive financial planning and investment optimization services. The referral business developed rapidly, providing high-value clients who appreciated sophisticated analysis and were willing to pay premium rates for professional expertise. Within 6 months of accepting the Martinez family advisory role, my total monthly income had increased by 60% through the combination of family consultation fees and expanded freelance practice. The additional income was invested systematically using the same strategies I had recommended for Roberto and Carmen, creating compounding wealth accumulation that exceeded my most optimistic projections from the previous year. My investment portfolio had grown to $97,000, representing resources sufficient for substantial down payments on investment properties valued up to $480,000. Portland real estate listings within this price range included numerous duplex and triplex properties in appreciating neighborhoods that could provide both personal residence and rental income generation. The psychological transformation that accompanied financial empowerment was profound and multifaceted. Success in building wealth and gaining professional recognition had created confidence that influenced every aspect of how I understood my capabilities and options. I was no longer someone seeking security through other people's approval, but someone building resources that provided genuine independence and choice in determining my future circumstances. This confidence began to influence how I responded to family dynamics that had previously created anxiety and frustration. Carmen's controlling behavior and David's deferential responses to his mother's authority became less threatening because I understood that my security no longer depended entirely on maintaining their approval or accommodation. The shift in power dynamics became apparent during family gatherings, where financial topics arose naturally in conversation. Instead of remaining silent during discussions about investment opportunities, property values, or economic trends, I participated as someone whose expertise was recognized and valued. Roberto frequently sought my opinions about market conditions and asked for my analysis of investment opportunities he was considering. David's reaction to my enhanced status within family financial discussions was complex and increasingly problematic. While he expressed pride in my professional success and appreciation for the income my expanded practice generated, he also demonstrated discomfort with the authority and respect I was gaining within family hierarchies that had previously positioned him as the primary financial decision-maker for our household. The tension became explicit during a family dinner discussion about potential real estate investments, where Roberto asked for my professional opinion about market conditions in specific Portland neighborhoods. My analysis included detailed knowledge of property values, development trends, and investment potential that demonstrated expertise exceeding what David possessed despite his technology industry salary and presumed financial sophistication. Following dinner, David expressed concerns about my increasing prominence in family financial discussions that revealed insecurity about his own status and authority within family relationships. "Elena, I appreciate that Dad values your professional expertise, but sometimes it seems like you are trying to position yourself as the family financial expert rather than supporting collaborative decision-making," he said, framing my competence as competitive behavior rather than valuable contribution. His response illuminated fundamental challenges in our marriage relationship that extended beyond immediate family dynamics to basic questions about authority, expertise, and mutual support within our partnership. David appeared threatened by my professional success and the respect it generated rather than viewing my capabilities as assets that strengthened our household's financial position and family relationships. David, I am providing professional expertise that benefits everyone's financial security and investment returns, I replied, attempting to help him understand that success in my field created advantages for our shared objectives, rather than competition for family authority. My goal is to contribute valuable knowledge that improves outcomes for everyone, not to compete with you or undermine your position. Quote. The conversation revealed that David's identity as the primary breadwinner and financial decision-maker in our relationship was threatened by evidence of my superior expertise in areas he had assumed were his responsibility. His discomfort suggested that he preferred family dynamics where his mother retained financial authority and where my contributions remained supportive rather than leadership-oriented. This realization created strategic challenges for my empowerment objectives that required careful navigation. Continuing to demonstrate financial expertise that generated professional opportunities and wealth accumulation was essential for building genuine independence and security. However, the success of these efforts was creating marital tensions that could potentially undermine family relationships I needed to maintain, while implementing long-term strategic plans. The solution I developed involved compartmentalizing my professional activities to minimize direct competition with David's perceived authority, while maximizing wealth-building opportunities and maintaining the respect I had gained within family financial planning processes. I continued expanding my external consulting practice while being more diplomatic about demonstrating expertise during family gatherings that might threaten David's self-perception. Simultaneously, I intensified my research into real estate investment opportunities that could provide both personal residence and income generation potential. The duplex and triplex properties I had identified in developing Portland neighborhoods represented possibilities for implementing the ultimate solution to my housing security challenges, while building substantial wealth through property ownership and rental income. My financial position had strengthened to the point where property ownership was becoming feasible, rather than merely aspirational. The combination of accumulated savings, proven income streams, and excellent credit history would support mortgage applications for investment properties that could transform my circumstances dramatically, while providing legal security that family dynamics could never undermine. More importantly, property ownership would establish genuine independence that would allow me to support family relationships from a position of strength rather than vulnerability. As a property owner generating independent income through professional expertise and rental properties, I would have options and authority that could not be compromised through emotional manipulation or family hierarchy disputes. The research into specific properties had identified several opportunities that aligned perfectly with my strategic objectives. A duplex property in the Woodstock neighborhood was listed at $420,000, required minimal renovation work, and included rental income potential that would cover mortgage payments while providing equity accumulation and tax advantages. The property would allow me to live in one unit while renting the other, creating housing security combined with investment returns. More intriguingly, the property was located in a rapidly developing area where property values were appreciating significantly faster than citywide averages. Comparable properties purchased 3 years earlier had increased in value by an average of 18% annually, suggesting that strategic property ownership in this neighborhood could provide both immediate housing security and substantial long-term wealth accumulation. The analysis of this investment opportunity revealed that property ownership could provide solutions to multiple challenges simultaneously. Housing security would eliminate vulnerability to family dynamics affecting my living situation. Rental income would supplement my professional earnings while building equity through mortgage principal payments. Property appreciation would create wealth accumulation that exceeded what traditional investment strategies could provide. Tax advantages would optimize my overall financial position while reducing the burden of increased income from expanded professional practice. Most significantly, property ownership would establish legal authority and financial independence that would completely transform power dynamics within family relationships. As a property owner with substantial independent income, I would participate in family financial discussions as an equal rather than a dependent, and my housing security would be protected by legal rights rather than family goodwill. The transformation from vulnerability to empowerment was approaching completion through systematic implementation of financial strategies that had begun with basic wealth accumulation and evolved into comprehensive investment planning. The woman who had been dismissed as financially naive was developing resources and expertise that would soon provide complete independence from family dynamics that had previously controlled her security and options. The next phase would involve transitioning from planning to implementation, making the financial commitments that would establish property ownership and permanent transformation of my circumstances. The foundation had been built through months of strategic preparation, and the opportunity for dramatic change was approaching rapidly. The transition from financial planning to property acquisition represented the most consequential decision point in my journey toward complete independence and security. After months of systematic wealth accumulation and strategic preparation, I possessed the resources and expertise necessary to purchase investment property that would fundamentally transform my circumstances. However, the implementation of this strategy required careful timing and discretion to avoid premature disclosure of plans that could create family conflicts before my position was legally secured. The Woodstock duplex property had become the focal point of my investment analysis after weeks of comprehensive due diligence that confirmed its exceptional potential for both immediate housing security and long-term wealth accumulation. The property was listed at $425,000, requiring a down payment of $85,000 for optimal financing terms. My accumulated investment portfolio had reached $112,000, providing sufficient resources for the down payment while maintaining reserves for closing costs, initial maintenance expenses, and emergency fund requirements. The financial analysis of this investment opportunity revealed compelling advantages that aligned perfectly with my strategic objectives. The duplex configuration would allow me to occupy one unit while generating rental income from the second unit that would cover approximately 70% of the mortgage payment. The remaining mortgage obligation would be manageable within my current income levels while building equity through principal payments and property appreciation in a rapidly developing neighborhood. More significantly, the rental income component would provide sustainable cash flow that reduced my dependence on employment income while creating additional wealth-building opportunities through reinvestment of surplus rental proceeds. The tax advantages associated with rental property ownership would optimize my overall financial position, while the property appreciation potential in the Woodstock area promised substantial long-term returns that exceeded traditional investment alternatives. The neighborhood analysis supported optimistic projections for property value growth based on ongoing development projects, transportation improvements, and demographic trends that indicated continued gentrification and appreciation. Properties within a 6-block radius had experienced average annual appreciation of 22% over the previous 3 years, suggesting that strategic property ownership in this location could provide exceptional wealth accumulation opportunities. Beyond the financial calculations, property ownership would establish legal rights and security that could not be compromised by family relationship changes or approval withdrawal. As a property owner, I would possess complete authority over housing decisions, modification choices, and occupancy arrangements that had been sources of ongoing conflict within the Martinez family dynamic. The psychological benefits of genuine housing security would eliminate vulnerability that had constrained my responses to family control attempts and manipulation strategies. However, purchasing property would require mortgage application processes that would inevitably reveal my financial capabilities and strategic planning to David and potentially to other family members. The loan documentation would establish my independent income levels, investment account balances, and creditworthiness that exceeded what anyone in the Martinez family had suspected. This disclosure could create marital tensions and family conflicts that required careful management to avoid undermining my strategic objectives. The solution I developed involved presenting the property purchase as a collaborative investment opportunity that would benefit our household financial position while gradually revealing my financial capabilities in contexts that emphasized shared advantages rather than independent planning. I would position the duplex acquisition as a strategic move that provided housing cost reduction and investment returns that strengthened our combined financial security. This approach would allow me to implement property ownership while managing family relationship dynamics that could become complicated if my independent financial planning was perceived as secretive or threatening to traditional marriage partnership expectations. The key was framing the purchase as enhancement of our shared objectives, rather than unilateral action that challenged existing household authority structures. I initiated the conversation with David during a quiet evening, when he was relaxed and receptive to discussing future planning topics. I explained that my expanded consulting practice had created income opportunities that could support real estate investment strategies we had never previously considered feasible. The presentation emphasized collaborative benefits and shared decision-making while establishing the foundation for revealing my actual financial position. David, the success of my financial consulting work has created opportunities for us to consider property investment strategies that could significantly improve our long-term financial security, I began, framing the discussion in terms of shared household advancement rather than individual investment planning. I have been researching duplex properties that could provide both housing cost reduction and rental income generation while building equity through property ownership. His initial response was positive and interested, apparently viewing the proposal as evidence of our improving financial position rather than indication of my independent planning activities. He asked questions about property values, financing requirements, and potential returns that demonstrated engagement with the investment concept, rather than suspicion about my financial capabilities or strategic planning. The conversation continued with detailed discussion of the Woodstock duplex property, including analysis of rental income potential, neighborhood development trends, and comparison with our current housing costs and security arrangements. David's questions revealed that he had not previously considered property ownership as achievable within our current financial circumstances, apparently underestimating both my income growth and our combined household resources. When I explained that my consulting income and accumulated savings would support the down payment requirements, David's surprise was evident, but not negative. He asked specific questions about my income levels and savings accumulation that provided opportunities to reveal my financial progress gradually, while maintaining focus on collaborative household benefits rather than individual achievement. "Elena, I had no idea your consulting practice had become so successful," he said, his tone reflecting genuine surprise rather than concern or suspicion. "If we can actually afford property ownership, that would solve a lot of the uncertainty we have been dealing with regarding housing security and family involvement in household decisions." His response suggested that property ownership would address concerns he shared about our current living situation, even though he had never explicitly acknowledged problems with his family's controlling behavior or our lack of legal housing rights. The prospect of independent property ownership apparently appealed to aspects of his personality that valued autonomy and decision-making authority, even though he had never challenged his mother's presumptuous involvement in household management. Over the following week, we conducted joint research into the duplex property that allowed me to demonstrate my comprehensive analysis while maintaining collaborative decision-making processes. David's involvement in evaluating the investment opportunity created buy-in for the purchase, while providing him with ownership of the decision that satisfied his need to maintain authority within our household financial planning. The property inspection revealed excellent structural condition with minimal maintenance requirements and confirmation of rental income potential that supported my financial projections. The neighborhood walkthrough confirmed ongoing development activities and property value trends that validated the investment thesis, while demonstrating my sophisticated understanding of real estate market analysis. David's enthusiasm for the property purchase grew throughout the evaluation process as he recognized the financial advantages and housing security benefits that ownership would provide. His support for proceeding with the acquisition eliminated potential resistance that could have complicated implementation of my strategic objectives, while maintaining positive marital dynamics during this critical transition period. The mortgage application process provided opportunities to reveal additional dimensions of my financial capabilities, while maintaining collaborative frameworks that satisfied David's partnership expectations. The loan officer's assessment of our combined financial profile confirmed qualification for optimal interest rates and terms based primarily on my improved income documentation and excellent credit history. During the application meeting, The loan officer reviewed our financial documents with professional appreciation for the systematic wealth building and credit management strategies that had created such strong qualification credentials. Her comments about my financial planning and investment discipline provided external validation of my capabilities, while educating David about the sophistication of planning that had made property ownership possible. Mrs. Rodriguez, your financial documentation demonstrates exceptional planning and wealth accumulation for someone your age, the loan officer observed while reviewing my investment account statements and income verification documents. The systematic approach you have taken to building creditworthiness and accumulating down payment resources represents exactly the kind of financial management that creates successful property ownership outcomes. David's reaction to this professional assessment was complex and revealing. He expressed pride in my financial achievements while also demonstrating surprise at the extent of strategic planning I had conducted independently. His questions about my investment strategies and wealth accumulation timeline revealed that he had significantly underestimated both my financial capabilities and my systematic approach to building security and independence. The mortgage approval process proceeded smoothly based on our strong financial qualification profile, with final approval contingent only on property appraisal confirmation and standard closing documentation. The loan terms were optimal based on our excellent credit history and substantial down payment, creating favorable conditions for long-term financial success with the investment property. However, the most significant development during this period was David's growing awareness of my financial sophistication and independent planning capabilities. His conversations about the property purchase revealed increasing recognition that I had been building wealth and developing expertise without his knowledge or involvement, creating circumstances that challenged his assumptions about our financial partnership and household authority dynamics. The challenge intensified when Carmen learned about our property purchase plans during a family dinner, where David mentioned our successful mortgage application with obvious pride and excitement. Carmen's immediate reaction was curiosity about financing arrangements and concern about how property ownership might affect family relationships, and David's ongoing obligations to his parents regarding the Laurelhurst house. David, how are you managing the down payment for property purchase while maintaining your mortgage obligations for the family house? Carmen asked, her questions revealing assumptions about our financial limitations and David's continued dependence on family financial support. Property ownership requires substantial capital resources that I did not realize you had accumulated. David's explanation of my consulting income and accumulated savings created visible surprise among family members who had never suspected my financial capabilities or strategic planning activities. Roberto's professional interest in investment strategy led to detailed questions about property selection criteria and market analysis that provided opportunities to demonstrate expertise while managing family relationship dynamics. Carmen's reaction was more complex and potentially problematic. Her questions about my independent financial planning revealed concern about how my growing capabilities might affect family hierarchies, and David's traditional deference to parental authority regarding major financial decisions. Her tone suggested suspicion about secretive planning rather than appreciation for financial achievement that would benefit household security. Elena, you have been quite systematic about building investment resources without discussing these plans during family financial conversations, Carmen observed, her comment framed as neutral inquiry but carrying undertones of criticism about independent decision-making that bypassed family consultation processes. Property ownership represents major financial commitment that affects family relationships and long-term planning considerations. Her response revealed the fundamental challenge I would face as my financial independence became apparent to family members who had become accustomed to controlling household decisions and maintaining authority over David's major life choices. Property ownership would establish legal and financial independence that could not be undermined through family pressure or emotional manipulation, creating permanent changes in relationship dynamics that Carmen clearly found threatening. The conversation concluded with family members expressing support for our property investment, while also establishing expectations for ongoing involvement in property management decisions and consultation regarding future financial planning. Carmen's closing comment suggested that property ownership should enhance family financial cooperation rather than creating independence that reduced parental influence over David's decisions. Walking home from dinner that evening, David expressed mixed emotions about family reactions to our property plans. He appreciated their support and interest, while also acknowledging discomfort with their assumption that property ownership should maintain rather than reduce their involvement in our household decision-making processes. Elena, I am excited about owning property and having genuine housing security, but I hope this does not create conflicts with my family about consultation and decision-making processes, he said, his comment revealing ongoing loyalty conflicts between independence desires and family relationship maintenance priorities. Property ownership should strengthen our position within family dynamics rather than creating separation or conflict. His response illuminated the fundamental challenge that would emerge as my financial empowerment became complete through property ownership. David wanted the benefits of independence and security while maintaining family relationships that had historically required deference to parental authority and consultation regarding major decisions. He had not yet recognized that genuine independence necessarily reduced family control possibilities and required establishment of boundaries that might create temporary relationship tensions. The property closing was scheduled for 3 weeks following mortgage approval, creating a timeline for transition from financial planning to actual property ownership that would establish permanent transformation of my circumstances and relationship dynamics. The legal documentation would create rights and security that could not be withdrawn through family disapproval or relationship changes, providing the foundation for complete empowerment that had been my objective throughout months of strategic preparation. The approaching property ownership represented not just financial achievement but psychological transformation from vulnerability to genuine security and independence that would influence every aspect of how I understood my options and capabilities. The woman who had been dismissed as financially dependent was about to become a property owner with legal rights, rental income, and equity accumulation that would provide permanent empowerment within family relationships that had previously constrained her authority and security. The 3 weeks leading to the property closing represented the most intense period of anticipation and strategic preparation in my entire transformation journey. Every detail of the purchase process required careful management to ensure successful completion, while navigating family dynamics that had become increasingly complex as the reality of my financial independence became apparent to David and his parents. The approaching closing date represented not merely a real estate transaction but the culmination of systematic planning that would establish permanent empowerment and security. The final property inspection confirmed excellent structural condition and validated all financial projections regarding rental income potential and maintenance requirements. The duplex had been maintained meticulously by the previous owners, with recent updates to electrical systems, plumbing infrastructure, and roof components that eliminated major capital expenditure requirements for several years. The rental unit was currently occupied by responsible tenants whose lease agreement would transfer to new ownership, providing immediate cash flow that would support mortgage payments from the first month of ownership. The neighborhood analysis during this final evaluation period reinforced optimistic projections for property appreciation based on accelerating development projects and transportation improvements that would enhance location desirability. 3 new commercial developments within walking distance were scheduled for completion within 18 months, creating amenities and employment opportunities that would increase rental demand and property values substantially. The investment thesis supporting this purchase had strengthened rather than weakened during the extended evaluation period. However, the most significant developments during this period involved evolving family dynamics, as Carmen's awareness of my financial capabilities created increasing tension around traditional authority structures that had governed Martinez's family decision-making processes. Her initial surprise at learning about my wealth accumulation had evolved into more systematic questioning about my financial planning activities and concerns about how property ownership might affect David's ongoing obligations to family consultation and deference. During a family dinner 2 weeks before closing, Carmen raised questions about property management responsibilities and decision-making authority that revealed her expectation that family involvement would continue despite legal ownership transfer. Her inquiries were framed as helpful guidance for new property owners, but the underlying message suggested that major property decisions should still involve family consultation and approval processes. Elena and David, property ownership involves complex decisions about maintenance, tenant management, and improvement investments that benefit from experienced guidance, Carmen said, her tone carrying the authority of someone providing necessary instruction rather than optional suggestions. Roberto and I have managed rental properties for 15 years, and we would be happy to help you develop appropriate management strategies and decision-making frameworks. Her offer represented a subtle attempt to maintain family authority over property decisions that would theoretically become my sole responsibility upon closing. The suggestion that experienced guidance was necessary for successful property management implied that my financial expertise was insufficient for real estate investment management, and that family oversight remained appropriate despite legal ownership transfer. David's response to his mother's offer revealed his continued inclination toward family consultation despite our upcoming transition to independent property ownership. Rather than establishing boundaries that recognized our legal authority as property owners, he expressed appreciation for ongoing family guidance and assured Carmen that we would value their experienced perspective regarding property management decisions. "Mom, we definitely want to benefit from your experience with rental property management," David replied, his acceptance of continued family involvement suggesting that property ownership would not necessarily create the independence and authority I had anticipated. "Elena has done excellent financial analysis, but practical management experience like yours will be valuable for avoiding mistakes and optimizing returns." His response demonstrated that David continued to prioritize family harmony over establishing clear boundaries that would protect our decision-making authority as property owners. Despite months of discussion about housing security and independence benefits, he remained reluctant to challenge family expectations regarding consultation and deference that could undermine the empowerment benefits I sought through property ownership. The conversation continued with detailed discussion of property management strategies, tenant screening procedures, and maintenance scheduling approaches that gradually established Carmen's expectation of ongoing involvement in decisions that should have been solely our responsibility as owners. Roberto participated with practical suggestions that were genuinely helpful, but the overall dynamic suggested that family consultation would continue regardless of legal ownership transfer. My response to this discussion required careful balance between accepting valuable guidance and establishing appropriate boundaries that would protect the independence and authority I had worked systematically to achieve. I expressed appreciation for their experience while also making clear that ultimate decision-making responsibility would rest with the legal property owners rather than family consultation processes. "Carmen and Roberto, we appreciate your willingness to share your property management experience, and your guidance will certainly be valuable as we develop our own management approaches," I said, acknowledging their expertise while establishing the framework for independent decision-making. "As property owners, we will ultimately be responsible for decisions that affect our investment returns and tenant relationships, but your experience will help us avoid common mistakes and develop effective strategies." My response attempted to balance respect for their knowledge with assertion of ownership authority, but Carmen's reaction suggested that she viewed property ownership as expanding family financial cooperation, rather than creating independent decision-making responsibility. Her follow-up comments indicated expectation that major property decisions would continue to involve family consultation and approval processes. Of course, Elena, legal ownership creates certain responsibilities, but successful property management benefits from collaborative decision-making that draws upon all available experience and expertise, Carmen replied, her tone suggesting that independent decision-making would be inappropriate and potentially harmful to investment outcomes. Family cooperation in financial matters has always been a Martinez tradition that has contributed to our collective success and stability. Her response revealed the fundamental challenge I would face in establishing genuine independence, despite legal property ownership. Carmen's concept of family financial cooperation assumed continued parental authority and consultation requirements that would limit my decision-making freedom and potentially undermine the empowerment benefits I sought through property ownership. The dinner conversation concluded without resolution of these authority and consultation questions, but it clarified that property ownership alone would not automatically create the family relationship boundaries I needed for complete independence and security. Establishing genuine empowerment would require ongoing assertion of owner rights and gradual development of decision-making patterns that reflected legal authority rather than traditional family hierarchies. The closing week brought final mortgage documentation and legal preparation that would establish property ownership within days of my strategic planning target timeline. The loan officer confirmed that all conditions had been satisfied and that closing could proceed as scheduled without complications or delays. The title company had completed their due diligence processes, and verified clear ownership transfer without liens or encumbrances that could affect the transaction. However, the most significant development during this period was my decision regarding how to structure the property title and ownership documentation. The mortgage application had been submitted jointly with David as co-borrowers, but Oregon property law allowed for various ownership structures that could affect decision-making authority and financial control arrangements. After extensive consultation with the real estate attorney handling our transaction, I decided to structure the property title as joint tenancy with rights of survivorship, which would provide both David and me with equal ownership rights, while ensuring that the surviving spouse would inherit complete ownership in the event of death. This structure satisfied David's expectation of shared ownership while preserving my strategic objectives regarding housing security and financial independence. More importantly, the joint ownership structure would require both signatures for major property decisions, creating legal protection against unilateral actions that could compromise my security or investment returns. Carmen's involvement in property management decisions would be limited to advisory capacity rather than decision-making authority, regardless of family consultation traditions or expectations. The closing day itself was scheduled for Friday morning at the title company offices, with all parties including sellers, buyers, real estate agents, and mortgage representatives present for final documentation signing and ownership transfer. I had prepared comprehensive checklists and review materials to ensure that all documents accurately reflected our agreed terms and that no unexpected provisions or requirements appeared in final contracts. The night before closing, I experienced profound anticipation mixed with satisfaction regarding the systematic achievement of strategic objectives I had established 18 months earlier. The transformation from housing insecurity and family dependency to property ownership and financial independence had been accomplished through disciplined planning, strategic wealth accumulation, and careful management of complex relationship dynamics. More importantly, the approaching property ownership represented validation of capabilities and strategic thinking that had been dismissed or underestimated by family members who assumed that financial expertise and independence were beyond my reach. The legal documents that would be signed the following morning would establish rights and authority that could not be withdrawn through family disapproval or relationship changes. Closing day began with final walkthrough of the property to confirm that all agreed conditions had been met and that no damage or changes had occurred since the previous inspection. The duplex remained in excellent condition, with both units ready for occupancy, and the current tenants confirmed their intention to continue their lease agreement under new ownership. The rental income would begin immediately upon closing, providing cash flow that would support mortgage payments and property expenses from the first month of ownership. The closing meeting itself proceeded smoothly through systematic review and execution of legal documents that transferred ownership and established mortgage obligations. The seller's attorney explained each document, while the title company representative verified that all conditions had been satisfied and that clear title would transfer without complications. The mortgage documents required careful review to ensure that all terms matched our approved loan package and that no unexpected provisions or requirements had been added during final processing. The interest rate, payment schedule, and loan conditions were exactly as discussed during the application process, confirming that our qualification credentials had maintained optimal financing terms throughout the approval period. However, the most significant moment came when the title company representative presented the deed that would establish legal property ownership. The document listed both David and Elena Rodriguez as joint owners with equal rights and responsibilities for all property decisions and financial obligations. Seeing my name on the legal ownership document created profound satisfaction and validation of the systematic planning that had made this achievement possible. The deed signing ceremony was brief but transformative. As I signed the legal document that established property ownership, I experienced the completion of strategic objectives that had seemed ambitious and uncertain when initially conceived. The systematic wealth accumulation, professional development, and relationship management had converged to create genuine empowerment and security that could not be compromised by family dynamics or approval withdrawal. David's reaction to the deed signing was positive and celebratory, expressing pride in our shared achievement and excitement about the housing security and investment returns that property ownership would provide. His enthusiasm suggested genuine satisfaction with our collaborative approach to property acquisition and optimism about the financial benefits that would result from strategic real estate investment. The closing concluded with transfer of keys, final financial reconciliation, and establishment of ongoing responsibilities for property management and mortgage payments. We were now legal property owners with complete authority over housing decisions, modification choices, and tenant management activities that had been sources of ongoing conflict within the Martinez family dynamic. Walking out of the title company offices with property ownership documents and keys to our investment property, I felt the completion of transformation that had begun with recognition of housing insecurity and family vulnerability 18 months earlier. The systematic planning and strategic implementation had created genuine empowerment that established permanent security and independence. The drive to inspect our newly owned property provided opportunities for David to express his appreciation for the financial planning and strategic thinking that had made property ownership possible. His comments revealed growing recognition of my capabilities and systematic approach to wealth building that had exceeded his previous understanding of my professional expertise and financial sophistication. "Elena, I am impressed by how systematically you approached this property investment and how carefully you managed all the financial planning required to make this purchase possible," David said, his tone reflecting genuine respect for strategic capabilities he had not previously recognized. "Your financial analysis and wealth accumulation made this opportunity available much sooner than I thought would be possible." His acknowledgement of my financial planning success represented validation that extended beyond property ownership to recognition of professional capabilities and strategic thinking that could support future investment opportunities and wealth-building objectives. The systematic approach that had created property ownership had also established credibility and respect that would influence ongoing family financial discussions and decision-making processes. However, the most profound satisfaction came from understanding that housing security was now protected by legal rights, rather than family approval or relationship maintenance requirements. As property owners, our housing decisions would be determined by our preferences and financial capabilities, rather than external consultation requirements or traditional authority structures. The transformation from vulnerability to empowerment was complete through legal documentation that established permanent rights and financial independence that could support any future decisions about family relationships, career opportunities, or investment strategies. The woman who had been dismissed as financially dependent now possessed property ownership, rental income, and equity accumulation that provided genuine security and options for determining her own future circumstances. The first month of property ownership brought immediate validation of the strategic planning that had guided my transformation from housing vulnerability to legal empowerment. The rental income from our tenant-occupied unit covered 68% of the monthly mortgage payment exactly as projected, while the property appreciation trends in the Woodstock neighborhood continued to exceed citywide averages. More significantly, the psychological transformation that accompanied legal ownership created confidence and authority that influenced every aspect of how I approached family relationships and financial decision-making. The practical aspects of property management proved manageable and professionally satisfying in ways I had not anticipated. The existing tenants, Michael and Sarah Chen, were responsible professionals who maintained the rental unit meticulously and paid rent promptly on the first of each month. Their lease agreement included provisions for annual rent increases tied to market rates, creating predictable income growth that would enhance cash flow and investment returns over time. The property maintenance requirements were minimal during the initial ownership period, consisting primarily of routine inspections and minor repairs that I could either handle personally or coordinate through reliable contractors. My systematic approach to building professional networks through my accounting practice had created relationships with electricians, plumbers, and general maintenance specialists, who provided competitive rates and reliable service for property management needs. However, the most significant developments during this period involved establishing decision-making patterns and authority structures that would define how property ownership affected family relationship dynamics. Carmen's expectation of continued consultation and guidance created ongoing tension between her traditional authority assumptions and the legal independence that property ownership had established. The first major test of these dynamics occurred 3 weeks after closing when the property required a new water heater for the rental unit. The existing unit had failed unexpectedly, creating an immediate need for replacement that would cost approximately $1,200. The situation required quick decision-making to minimize tenant inconvenience and maintain the positive landlord-tenant relationship that supported reliable rental income. My response to this maintenance emergency demonstrated the systematic planning and professional competence that property ownership had been designed to establish. I obtained quotes from 3 different contractors, evaluated warranty options and energy efficiency considerations, and selected a replacement unit that provided optimal value while ensuring tenant satisfaction and long-term reliability. The entire process was completed within 48 hours of the initial problem identification, with the new water heater installed and operational before the tenants experienced significant inconvenience. The efficient resolution demonstrated property management capabilities that exceeded what family members had expected and established precedents for independent decision-making that did not require consultation or approval. However, when David mentioned the water heater replacement during our next family dinner, Carmen's response revealed her continued expectation that major property expenses should involve family consultation despite our legal authority as owners. Her questions about contractor selection, cost analysis, and decision-making timelines suggested that independent action without family input represented poor judgment rather than appropriate owner responsibility. Elena, property maintenance decisions benefit from experienced evaluation of contractors and cost considerations, Carmen said, her tone carrying the instructional authority she used when providing guidance she considered necessary rather than optional. Roberto and I have established relationships with reliable contractors who provide quality work at reasonable prices. Consultation with experienced property owners could have ensured optimal outcomes while potentially reducing costs. Her response revealed the fundamental challenge that would define ongoing family relationships, despite legal property ownership. Carmen viewed independent decision-making as evidence of inexperience, rather than recognition of my legal authority and professional capabilities. Her assumption that family consultation would improve outcomes demonstrated continued belief that her authority should override ownership rights when property decisions arose. My response required careful balance between acknowledging her experience and establishing boundaries that protected the independence and authority that property ownership was intended to create. I expressed appreciation for her willingness to share contractor recommendations, while making clear that ultimate decision-making responsibility rested with property owners rather than family consultation processes. Carmen, I appreciate your offer to share contractor recommendations, and future maintenance needs might benefit from your experiences with reliable service providers, I replied, acknowledging her expertise while establishing ownership authority. For emergency situations like water heater failures, property owners need to act quickly to minimize tenant inconvenience and prevent additional damage. The contractor selection process I used ensured quality installation while maintaining positive tenant relationships. My response attempted to balance respect for her knowledge with assertion of independent decision-making authority, but Carmen's reaction suggested that she viewed emergency circumstances as requiring family consultation rather than justifying independent action. Her follow-up comments indicated continued expectation that property ownership should enhance family cooperation rather than reduce consultation requirements. Elena, emergency situations actually require more careful decision-making rather than less, because hasty choices often create expensive problems that could have been avoided through experienced guidance. Carmen replied, her tone suggesting that independent action represented poor judgment that could compromise investment outcomes. Property ownership involves learning curves that benefit from collaborative decision-making until experience develops naturally over time. Her response demonstrated that Carmen interpreted property ownership as expanding family financial cooperation rather than establishing independent authority. Her concept of appropriate property management assumed continued parental guidance and consultation requirements that would limit decision-making freedom and potentially undermine the empowerment benefits I had sought through strategic planning and wealth accumulation. David's reaction to this exchange was revealing and concerning regarding his understanding of property ownership boundaries and marriage authority structures. Rather than supporting my independent decision-making as a property owner, he suggested that future maintenance situations could benefit from family consultation that would draw upon all available experience and expertise. Elena handled the water heater situation well, but Mom makes a good point about benefiting from experienced guidance for property management decisions, David said, his response prioritizing family harmony over supporting ownership authority. We can develop our own experience over time while still consulting with family members who have successful property management backgrounds. His response demonstrated continued loyalty conflicts between supporting his wife's capabilities and maintaining family consultation patterns that had characterized his approach to major decisions throughout our marriage. Despite months of discussion about independence benefits and housing security advantages, David remained reluctant to establish boundaries that would reduce family involvement in property decisions. The conversation concluded without clear resolution regarding consultation expectations and decision-making authority, but it established patterns that would define ongoing challenges in achieving genuine empowerment despite legal property ownership. Carmen's expectation of continued guidance authority and David's preference for family consultation would require systematic boundary establishment and consistent assertion of owner rights. However, the property management success during this initial period created foundation for confidence and authority that extended beyond immediate maintenance decisions to broader financial planning and investment strategy development. The rental income performance exceeded projections, the property condition remained excellent, and the tenant relationship provided stable cash flow that supported mortgage payments while building equity through principal reduction and property appreciation. More significantly, property ownership had created legal security and financial independence that provided options and leverage in family relationships that had previously constrained my authority and decision-making freedom. The systematic wealth accumulation and strategic planning that had made property ownership possible continued to generate investment returns and professional opportunities that enhanced my financial position monthly. My consulting practice had expanded substantially during the property acquisition period, with referrals from satisfied clients creating steady demand for comprehensive financial planning and investment analysis services. The reputation for systematic analysis and strategic thinking that had impressed the Martinez family had generated additional opportunities with high-value clients who appreciated sophisticated expertise and were willing to pay premium rates for professional consultation. The combination of rental income, consulting fees, and investment returns from accumulated portfolios had created monthly cash flow that exceeded our household expenses by approximately $1,800. This surplus provided resources for additional property improvements, emergency fund enhancement, and accelerated wealth accumulation through systematic reinvestment of excess income. The financial security that resulted from property ownership and diversified income streams created psychological transformation that influenced how I understood my capabilities and options regarding future opportunities and relationship decisions. The vulnerability and dependency that had characterized my position within the Martinez family had been replaced by genuine empowerment and security that could not be compromised through family disapproval or relationship changes. This transformation became apparent during a family gathering where financial topics arose naturally in conversation about investment opportunities and economic trends affecting property values. Instead of remaining silent during discussions about market conditions and investment strategies, I participated as someone whose expertise was established and whose property ownership provided practical experience with real estate investment outcomes. Roberto's questions about property management experiences and neighborhood development trends created opportunities to demonstrate competence, while sharing insights that benefited family financial planning discussions. My responses included detailed analysis of market conditions and investment performance that reflected professional expertise combined with practical ownership experience. Elena, your property investment appears to be performing well based on rental income and neighborhood appreciation trends, Roberto observed, his tone reflecting genuine respect for investment outcomes and strategic planning. The systematic approach you used for property selection and financing has created excellent foundation for long-term wealth accumulation through real estate investment. His acknowledgement of my investment success provided validation that extended beyond property ownership to recognition of strategic thinking and financial capabilities that could inform family investment decisions and planning processes. The professional respect that Roberto demonstrated influenced family dynamics by establishing my credibility in areas where Carmen had previously assumed authority and expertise superiority. However, Carmen's reaction to Roberto's positive assessment of my property investment revealed continued discomfort with authority shifts that property ownership and financial success had created within family hierarchies. Her questions about ongoing property challenges and potential risks suggested attempts to identify problems that would justify continued guidance and consultation requirements. Property ownership involves ongoing challenges that are not apparent during initial success periods, Carmen said, her tone suggesting that current positive outcomes did not guarantee long-term investment success. Tenant management, maintenance costs, and market changes create complexities that require experienced guidance to navigate successfully over time. Her response demonstrated persistent attempts to minimize my property management capabilities and maintain authority that property ownership had been designed to eliminate. The systematic dismissal of investment success and emphasis on potential future challenges revealed continued resistance to acknowledging empowerment that reduced her influence over household financial decisions. My response to Carmen's skepticism required careful balance between confidence in my capabilities and acknowledgement that property ownership involved ongoing learning and adaptation. I expressed appreciation for her experience while demonstrating that systematic planning and professional expertise provided adequate foundation for successful property management without requiring external guidance or approval. Carmen, property ownership certainly involves ongoing challenges that require systematic management and strategic planning, I replied, acknowledging the complexities while establishing my competence to handle property management responsibilities. My professional background in financial analysis and business management provides excellent preparation for addressing property investment challenges as they develop over time. The conversation continued with detailed discussion of property management strategies and investment optimization approaches that gradually established my expertise while managing family relationship dynamics that had become more complex as my financial independence became apparent. The balance between demonstrating competence and maintaining respectful family relationships required ongoing attention and strategic communication. However, the most significant outcome of this period was recognition that property ownership had created genuine transformation from vulnerability to empowerment that provided permanent security and options for determining future circumstances. The legal rights, financial independence, and professional credibility that had been established through systematic planning could not be withdrawn through family disapproval or relationship changes. The rental income, equity accumulation, and investment returns provided economic foundation for any future decisions about career opportunities, family relationships, or additional investment strategies. The woman who had been dismissed as financially dependent now possessed property ownership, professional expertise, and wealth accumulation that supported complete independence and security. More importantly, the systematic approach that had created property ownership success provided proven methodology for achieving additional ambitious objectives that had previously seemed beyond reach. The confidence and capabilities that had been developed through strategic planning and disciplined implementation could be applied to future opportunities that would continue the transformation from limitation to empowerment that property ownership had initiated. The second month of property ownership marked a significant acceleration in my wealth accumulation and professional recognition that extended far beyond the initial success of real estate investment. The systematic approach that had generated property ownership created momentum for additional opportunities that would establish my position as a recognized financial strategist within both family circles and professional networks. The confidence that accompanied proven investment success provided foundation for pursuing more ambitious objectives that would further solidify my independence and authority. The rental income from our duplex property had stabilized at exactly the projected levels, with tenant payments arriving promptly and property maintenance costs remaining minimal. The cash flow analysis revealed that rental income exceeded mortgage obligations by $430 monthly, creating surplus revenue that could be reinvested systematically to accelerate wealth accumulation. The property appreciation in the Woodstock neighborhood continued to outpace citywide averages, with comparable properties showing value increases of 12% during the previous 6 months. However, the most significant financial development during this period involved expansion of my consulting practice to include comprehensive wealth management services for high-net-worth clients who required sophisticated investment analysis and strategic planning expertise. The reputation I had established through successful Martinez family financial consulting had generated referrals from their social network, creating opportunities with clients whose investment portfolios exceeded $500,000 and whose planning needs commanded premium professional fees. These expanded consulting relationships required development of advanced expertise in areas including estate planning coordination, tax optimization strategies, and alternative investment evaluation that extended my professional capabilities substantially. I enrolled in continuing education programs through the Certified Financial Planner Board and began pursuing additional credentials that would establish formal recognition of my expertise in comprehensive wealth management. The pursuit of advanced professional credentials represented strategic investment in capabilities that would support long-term career advancement and income growth potential. The coursework required significant time commitment beyond my existing work obligations, but the systematic learning approach that had proven successful throughout my transformation journey made the additional study manageable and professionally rewarding. The first major client engagement that demonstrated my expanded capabilities involved comprehensive financial analysis for Patricia Henley, a recently divorced executive who needed to restructure her investment portfolio and develop strategies for maximizing her divorce settlement resources. Her financial situation included complex stock option arrangements, retirement account distributions, and property division decisions that required sophisticated analysis and strategic planning expertise. My approach to Patricia's financial planning needs demonstrated the systematic methodology that had become my professional signature. I conducted comprehensive analysis of her current asset allocation, evaluated tax implications of various restructuring options, and developed strategic recommendations that would optimize her long-term financial security while minimizing current tax obligations and maximizing growth potential. The analysis revealed opportunities for improving her investment returns by approximately $24,000 annually through strategic reallocation of assets, implementation of tax-advantaged investment vehicles, and optimization of retirement account withdrawal strategies. The comprehensive financial plan I developed provided detailed implementation timelines and performance monitoring frameworks that would ensure successful execution of recommended strategies. Patricia's response to my comprehensive financial analysis exceeded my expectations in terms of both professional satisfaction and financial compensation. She implemented all recommended strategies and engaged me for ongoing quarterly consultation to monitor performance and adjust strategies based on changing market conditions and personal circumstances. The relationship commanded monthly retainer fees of $2,800, representing substantial income enhancement that would accelerate my wealth accumulation significantly. More importantly, Patricia's satisfaction with my financial planning services generated additional referrals from her professional network, creating opportunities with other high-income clients who required sophisticated wealth management expertise. Within 6 weeks of completing Patricia's initial financial plan, I had acquired 4 additional clients whose combined monthly retainer fees totaled $8,400. The dramatic expansion of my consulting income created financial capabilities that exceeded anything I had projected during initial strategic planning phases. My monthly income from combined salary, property rental, and consulting fees now approached $14,000, representing more than triple my earnings from just 18 months earlier. The systematic wealth accumulation that had begun with basic financial planning had evolved into comprehensive financial services practice that provided substantial income and professional recognition. This financial success created opportunities for additional real estate investments that could further enhance my wealth accumulation and provide expanded income diversification. The combination of accumulated savings, proven income documentation, and excellent credit history would support mortgage qualification for additional properties valued up to $800,000, opening possibilities for more substantial investment opportunities in premium Portland neighborhoods. However, the most significant impact of my expanding financial success involved shifts in family relationship dynamics, as Carmen's awareness of my capabilities and independence created increasing discomfort with authority structures that had previously favored her involvement in household financial decisions. Her initial surprise at learning about my property ownership had evolved into systematic resistance to acknowledging expertise that challenged her traditional family authority. The tension came to a head during a family dinner, where Roberto asked detailed questions about my consulting practice expansion and client acquisition strategies that demonstrated genuine professional interest in my business development success. His questions revealed respect for my capabilities and acknowledgement that my expertise had developed beyond what any family member possessed in comprehensive financial planning and wealth management. Elena, your consulting practice expansion represents impressive professional development that demonstrates exceptional expertise in areas where most financial advisors struggle to establish credibility, Roberto observed, his tone reflecting genuine admiration for business success and strategic planning capabilities. The systematic approach you have taken to building client relationships and developing advanced credentials shows remarkable professional maturity and strategic thinking. His acknowledgement of my professional achievements provided validation that extended beyond family relationships to recognition of capabilities that commanded respect within broader business and financial communities. Roberto's background as an educational administrator had developed his appreciation for systematic learning and professional development, making his positive assessment particularly meaningful and credible. David's reaction to his father's praise for my professional success was complex and revealing regarding his evolving understanding of my capabilities and our marriage partnership dynamics. He expressed pride in my achievements while also demonstrating subtle discomfort with attention and recognition that exceeded what his own career had generated within family discussions. Elena has definitely developed impressive financial expertise, and her consulting practice success shows how systematic she can be when she focuses on specific objectives, David said, his response acknowledging my achievements while subtly minimizing their significance through emphasis on systematic approach rather than exceptional capability. Her background in accounting provided good foundation for expanding into comprehensive financial planning and wealth management services. His response revealed underlying insecurity about my professional success that had become apparent as my income and recognition exceeded his own career achievements. David's identity had been structured around being the primary breadwinner and financial decision-maker in our household, and my expanding success challenged those assumptions in ways that created marital tension, despite the obvious benefits for our combined financial position. However, Carmen's reaction to the discussion of my professional expansion was more directly confrontational, and revealed the depth of her resistance to acknowledging capabilities that reduced her authority within family financial planning processes. Her questions about client acquisition and professional credentials carried undertones of skepticism about the sustainability and legitimacy of my business success. Elena, consulting practices can be unpredictable, and client relationships often prove less stable than they initially appear, Carmen said, her tone suggesting that current success did not guarantee long-term business viability. Professional service businesses require established reputations and extensive networks that take years to develop properly. Rapid expansion sometimes indicates insufficient foundation rather than exceptional capability. Her response represented systematic attempt to undermine confidence in my professional achievements and question the strategic planning that had created expanding client relationships and income growth. The suggestion that rapid expansion indicated insufficient foundation rather than exceptional capability revealed her continued resistance to acknowledging expertise that challenged her traditional authority within family financial discussions. My response to Carmen's skepticism required careful balance between confidence in my achievements and respect for family relationship maintenance requirements. I acknowledged the challenges of professional service business development while demonstrating that systematic planning and proven expertise provided adequate foundation for sustainable success and continued growth. Carmen, professional service businesses certainly require careful development and systematic client relationship management, I replied, maintaining respectful tone while establishing credibility of my business success. My expansion has been based on proven expertise and client satisfaction rather than speculative growth. The systematic approach I used for financial analysis and strategic planning provides reliable foundation for sustainable business development. The conversation continued with detailed discussion of business development strategies and professional credential requirements that gradually established my expertise, while managing family dynamics that had become increasingly complex, as my financial independence and professional recognition exceeded what family members had anticipated or prepared for. However, the most revealing aspect of this family discussion was Roberto's follow-up question about my long-term professional objectives and business expansion plans. His inquiry demonstrated genuine interest in my strategic thinking and recognition that my capabilities warranted serious consideration for substantial business development opportunities. Elena, given your success with comprehensive financial planning and the reputation you have established for systematic analysis, have you considered expanding your practice to include broader wealth management services or potentially establishing an independent financial planning firm? Roberto asked, his question revealing understanding that my expertise had developed to levels that could support significant business expansion and professional recognition. His question opened possibilities that I had begun considering but had not discussed with family members due to potential implications for household arrangements and family relationship dynamics. The systematic success I had achieved in client acquisition and service delivery provided foundation for establishing independent financial planning practice that could generate substantially higher income while providing complete professional autonomy and recognition. The prospect of independent business ownership represented natural evolution of the strategic planning that had begun with basic wealth accumulation and progressed through property ownership to comprehensive financial services expertise. My client base, professional credentials, and proven track record would support successful transition to independent practice that could serve larger client populations while maximizing income potential and professional satisfaction. Roberto, independent practice establishment is definitely something I have been researching as my client base and expertise have developed, I replied, acknowledging business expansion possibilities while maintaining appropriate caution about premature disclosure of specific plans. The systematic approach that has worked well for client relationship development and service delivery would certainly support broader business opportunities when the timing and market conditions align appropriately. My response provided honest assessment of business expansion potential, while avoiding specific commitments that could create family relationship complications if independent practice establishment affected household arrangements or required significant changes in time allocation and professional focus. However, Carmen's reaction to discussion of independent business establishment revealed the ultimate source of her resistance to acknowledging my professional capabilities and financial independence. The prospect that my success could lead to complete professional autonomy apparently threatened her fundamental assumptions about family hierarchy and authority structures that had governed Martina's family relationships for decades. Elena, independent business ownership involves substantial risks and obligations that affect entire families rather than just individual professionals, Carmen said, her tone carrying warning rather than encouragement regarding business expansion possibilities. Professional service practices require stability and predictability that may not be compatible with family obligations and household management responsibilities. Her response revealed core beliefs about appropriate roles for married women within traditional family structures that had been challenged by my financial independence and professional success. Carmen's concept of family obligations assumed that my primary responsibility should focus on household management and family support, rather than independent business development and professional recognition achievement. The conversation concluded without resolution of these fundamental differences regarding professional autonomy and family obligation priorities, but it clarified that my continued success and expansion would require ongoing boundary establishment and systematic assertion of independence that property ownership had initiated but not completed. The financial foundation I had established through systematic wealth accumulation, property investment, and professional development provided resources and options that made family approval unnecessary for pursuing business expansion opportunities. The question was whether I possessed sufficient confidence and strategic vision to implement independent practice establishment, despite family resistance and potential relationship complications that such success might create. The third month of property ownership coincided with the most significant professional opportunity of my transformation journey, one that would establish complete independence from traditional employment structures, while positioning me as a recognized authority in comprehensive wealth management services. The systematic client acquisition and proven expertise that had generated expanding consulting income created foundation for establishing an independent financial planning practice that could serve substantially larger client populations, while maximizing both income potential and professional recognition. The catalyst for this transition emerged through my relationship with Patricia Henley, whose satisfaction with my comprehensive financial planning services had generated referrals throughout her professional network in Portland's business community. Her connections included senior executives, successful entrepreneurs, and high-net-worth individuals who required sophisticated wealth management expertise but had experienced dissatisfaction with traditional financial advisory firms that prioritized product sales over strategic planning and client outcomes. Patricia approached me with a proposition that would accelerate my business development timeline significantly, while providing resources and credibility that independent practice establishment typically required years to develop. Her professional network was willing to provide initial client commitments and strategic partnerships that would support immediate transition to independent practice with guaranteed revenue streams and established market positioning. Elena, the quality of strategic analysis and comprehensive planning you have provided exceeds anything I have experienced with major financial services firms, Patricia explained during a meeting at her downtown office, surrounded by awards and recognition that demonstrated her own professional success and business judgment credibility. My colleagues and I believe there is substantial market opportunity for independent wealth management services that prioritize client outcomes over product commission structures. Her proposal included initial client commitments from 8 high-net-worth individuals whose combined asset management needs exceeded $3 million, generating potential annual revenue of approximately $96,000 through standard wealth management fee structures. More significantly, these clients had agreed to provide referrals throughout their business networks, creating organic growth opportunities that could establish my practice as a recognized presence in Portland's wealth management market. The financial analysis of independent practice establishment revealed compelling advantages that aligned perfectly with my strategic objectives regarding professional autonomy and income optimization. Independent practice would eliminate the overhead costs and profit-sharing arrangements that reduce net income in traditional employment relationships, while providing complete control over service delivery standards and client relationship management approaches. However, independent business ownership would require substantial initial investment in professional infrastructure, regulatory compliance systems, and marketing resources that exceeded my current liquid capital availability. The startup costs for establishing properly licensed and professionally credible financial planning practice approached $45,000, including office space, technology systems, professional liability insurance, and regulatory certification requirements. The financial challenge created opportunity to demonstrate the strategic thinking and resource optimization capabilities that had generated success throughout my transformation journey. Rather than delaying business establishment until additional capital accumulation, I developed a comprehensive business plan that utilized existing resources while minimizing startup costs through strategic partnerships and phased implementation approaches. The solution involved establishing the practice initially as home-based operation that would minimize overhead costs while building client relationships and revenue streams that could support transition to traditional office space when business volume justified additional expenses. The duplex property provided excellent foundation for professional office establishment, with the possibility of converting portions of our residential unit to accommodate client meetings and administrative operations. More importantly, my existing client relationships and proven track record provided immediate revenue generation that would support business operations from the first month of independent practice. The combination of established clients and new referrals from Patricia's network would generate sufficient cash flow to cover operating expenses while building capital reserves for future expansion and professional development investments. The comprehensive business plan I developed included detailed financial projections, marketing strategies, and operational frameworks that demonstrated the systematic approach to business development that had characterized my professional success. The plan projected first-year revenue of $147,000, with net profit margins exceeding 68%, representing substantial improvement over traditional employment compensation structures. However, the most challenging aspect of independent business establishment involved managing family relationship dynamics that had become increasingly complex as my professional success and financial independence exceeded what David and his parents had anticipated or prepared for. The prospect of business ownership represented additional autonomy and recognition that could further challenge traditional family authority structures and marriage partnership expectations. I approached David with the business establishment proposal during a period when our property investment success and my consulting income growth had created positive momentum regarding financial achievement recognition. I presented the opportunity as natural evolution of professional development that would enhance our household financial security while establishing long-term wealth accumulation through business ownership rather than employment dependency. David, The success of my consulting practice has created opportunities for establishing independent financial planning business that could provide substantially higher income while building equity through business ownership, I explained, framing the proposal in terms of shared household benefits rather than individual professional achievement. The systematic client acquisition and proven expertise provide excellent foundation for business development that could transform our long-term financial position significantly. His initial response reflected complex emotions regarding my professional advancement and the implications for our marriage partnership dynamics. David expressed pride in my achievements while also demonstrating concern about business ownership risks and time commitment requirements that could affect household management and family relationship obligations. Elena, I am impressed by the opportunities your consulting success has created, but independent business ownership involves substantial risks and responsibilities that could affect our family stability and relationship priorities, David said, his tone reflecting genuine concern about business implications rather than opposition to professional advancement. Business establishment requires significant capital investment and time commitment that might compromise other important objectives and obligations. His response revealed underlying anxiety about my increasing independence and professional recognition that had created subtle tensions within our marriage despite the obvious financial benefits for our combined household position. David's identity had been structured around traditional partnership roles where his career provided primary income, while my contribution remained supportive rather than leadership-oriented. The conversation continued with detailed discussion of business plan elements and risk mitigation strategies that addressed his concerns while demonstrating the systematic planning and conservative approach that would ensure sustainable business development. I provided comprehensive financial analysis that showed business establishment would enhance rather than threaten our household security through income diversification and equity accumulation. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.